Hey everybody, what's up? Thank you for joining us. It is Richard Barker, the incredible hypnotist. I'm going to be introducing you to a special guest in a minute, Mr. Scott McFall, master hypnotist, magician, businessman, entrepreneur. What else am I missing? Everything in between. A genius by all accounts. So in a few moments when I introduce you to Scott, make sure you have a whole bunch of questions ready. We'll show them up onto the screen. Also, if you have any questions for me, then feel free to type them in the comments, and I'd love to be able to pick the brains of Scott in a few moments with his perspective. And we're going to talk mainly about stage hypnosis and stage hypnotism, but if you have any clinical questions or any hypnotherapy style questions, please feel free to throw them out there, and even questions about magic and theaters and whatever's on your mind. We're going to be running for about 30 to 40 minutes here. This is recorded, so you'll have chance to see the replay on the YouTube channel. For those that are watching the replay, where are you? Because you couldn't ask the questions because it is the replay. But for those that are live, nice to see each and every one of you. We have Sarah, Chris, Sylvian, Dinesh, John. Good to see you guys. And without further ado, before I turn this camera over, I want to introduce you to somebody that there isn't. I'm going to say this without trying to sound like buttering you up or without trying to sound derogatory on other people out there. But in this industry of stage hypnosis and just professional hypnotists in the world, there aren't actually many people that really impress me, and I'm not quite sure why. Maybe because a lot of them are full of shit. I'm not really quite sure, but a lot of them don't walk the talk, you know. And I'm always I walk the talk. I do what I say what I do, and I take action, and I work hard, and I'm heavily involved in hypnosis. And it's weird because there's not a lot of people that are really sort of out there and have had that experience and that longevity, and that have really honed their craft of becoming a successful, what I would like to term a professional hypnotist. But Scott McFall is one of them. I mean, I'm losing count of all the things you've done, from owning theaters to producing magic shows, or Luke Grand Illusion shows, I guess, to stage hypnotism. I saw a Scott show years ago, to having successful coaching clients and academies all across the United States and probably the world. Do you have any outside of the US?
We do.
Yep. So teaching hypnotists hypnotism and how to run successful businesses and clinics. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Scott McFall. Give it up, everybody.
Hi,
Scott
everyone.
is in the
How are
house.
you?
Good to see you, my friend. So
Good to see you.
tell us a little bit. That's some delayed applause right there.
Very nice.
Tell us a little bit, Scott, about your experience. How did you get involved in hypnotism?
When I was a young guy, I had a lot of heart surgeries. I was born premature, and doing hypnosis was taught for pain management by nurses when I was at St. Mary's Hospital to distract me and whatnot. So growing up, I just always had an interest in it from there, and did demonstrations, and obviously read Ormond McGill's book, Encyclopedia of Stage Hypnotism, and did magic to distract myself whenever I could, and then joined a thing called Shade Tree Players and did theater for many years. And at that time, I wasn't very into academics. I was more into the game of doing performance, And Richard and I are actually at the same place, so I'm actually looking at him while looking at the camera. But, we actually had a blast doing magic and comedy. One of my friends was also a magician. And so during that time, I did a lot of shows with Shade Tree and then Bismarck State and Moorhead State. And that was growing up in the Midwest. And that whole time I was doing mentalism, hypnosis, and at the same time taking certification courses in clinical hypnosis and whatnot, and basically training with as many people as I could find. And so started doing, various local clubs and bars. I started doing that before I was legal, actually, to be in the clubs. But we would do the stage hypnosis in the clubs, which was a great place at that time because they were packed almost every night of the week. One of the secret ways that everyone stayed booked back then, including much of my competition, is places that had league, like softball league bars, bowling bars, anywhere that people did sports, then that during the tournaments, that club would be full every night. So you could practice and you'd have a packed crowd and it would be great, you know. So at that time, usually 5 to 6 nights a week, I would be in the clubs. And then I went on tour doing what are called lyceum shows or school programs. And so you do 300 shows in a year, doing 3 shows a day. And so that being booked constantly is enormous practice. And that there's nothing better than being in front of a crowd. If you want to be good, work. You know, and in the beginning, unfortunately, that requires that you work based on what the market will bear. You've got to get the shows that you can work, and you've got to get out there and do it. And I think it's important in this business, in the hypnosis business, to remember that they hypnotize themselves. That you're like Johnny Carson, or you know, you're like now whoever a talk show host that you like would happen to be in your generation. You're like a talk show host. If you want to be liked and you want everybody to think you're great, the secret is to make everyone else look great, make the subjects look great. You know, not be caught up in your own performance half as much as you're caught up in how the whole performance of those subjects happens to look.
Let me just pause you a minute, because you are giving us some golden information here, and I just want to. I'm a guy that likes to just kind of recap and paraphrase us through. So you started hypnosis because you were born prematurely?
Yes.
That's amazing. And then you learned this because of what, medical issues? Or?
Yeah, pain, distraction.
Wow.
Pain
So
distraction.
so you learned hypnosis because of pain management or just overcoming obstacles in your younger years?
Yep.
That's crazy. So did you learn? A lot of people that are watching this, that they are learning through YouTube. Obviously, when you were learning hypnosis, there wasn't YouTube, I'm assuming.
No, there wasn't.
So did you learn? Was the first book you picked up Orman McGill's?
No, I think the first book I picked up was General Techniques of Hypnotism by Andre M. Weisenhofer.
What year was that? Do you remember when that was?
Would have been the late 70s, probably.
Wow. So in the late 70s, you had started to read into hypnosis. When was your first sort of formal live training? When did you go on some training?
Well, it would have been probably in the early 1980s. In high school, I would have gone to trainings and so on. But I was also getting enormous public speaking training. I worked at KXMB TV, learning how to do what we're doing here, for example.
Yeah.
And so I worked at the TV station as a camera person while I was working as a disc jockey.
How old were you?
Oh, this was when I was still a teenager, 16 to 18.
Because for those watching right now, I'm just looking at. There's a lot of interest in hypnosis nowadays with teenagers, and I know there's a lot watching this right now. So you're saying, you got into this through reading a book, but you had a purpose which was health related.
Yes.
And then you obviously had found an interest in performing on stage, right?
Yes.
And then what you just said, with the Lyceum shows and the nightclub shows. So you started probably underage at nightclubs?
Yes, I did.
And were they adult shows or were they?
Yes, they were.
So they were adult shows.
Yes.
Which is what kind of it's so by adult that's
PG, not R.
Not R rated.
Yeah, but PG rated. And back then, you're bringing up something really important. You said with a purpose.
Yeah.
Trance response, in the books that I've written, I say trance response is directly dependent on the need or the leverage within that person.
Yeah.
So if someone knows that they need to lose weight, quit smoking, if they know that they're having a purpose and there's leverage or they're venting something, the response to the hypnosis is going to be more dramatic than if they're just relaxing, for example.
Yeah.
So someone who's really gregarious and a people person in a show is going to respond, or someone who needs to become a people person because they're usually too shy, they're going to have a blast being hypnotized because they can say, well, the hypnosis had me do it. So they feel freer to have fun, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things I think a lot of hypnotists don't know is the response of that person is directly dependent on the leverage you set up in the pre-talk.
Interesting.
Or in the setup, right? Which you're very good at because I've seen you work. And you understand the point, all the hypnosis happens before the induction.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the hypnosis happens before the induction.
So hang on, guys. Let me those that are practicing hypnosis right now, listen to what Scott just said. You've got how many years in this industry?
It's about 40 now.
40 years in this industry, and what Scott is saying is what I've been preaching as well, that you said all the hypnosis happens before the induction?
Yes.
Why do an induction then?
Well, I say
Why
that...
bother?
I would say that in the metaphors of Erickson, he began to realize that sometimes it isn't necessary.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but there is a need for an induction in the sense that you need a trigger to the setup that you've created. You need a realization of the expectation. Expectation plus realization equals belief. And so you do need the expectation set up before the induction, the realization and the belief. And it's not about you, you know, in the sense that if you were building a box out of wood, you wouldn't think, I am the box. But yet hypnotists walk around going, I have the power.
Yeah,
you know, and that's not quite how it should be.
So what Scott just said is interesting, because I know a lot of you, enjoy the street hypnosis, the street hypnosis videos. You enjoy the instant rapid inductions. And I always say it's the setup and not the actual, it's it's the first encounter with the person. I like to keep that on video so you can see the initial rapport building and the sort of pre-framing and the anchoring and the, just that preamble, because that's 80% of street hypnosis, and the rest, you're almost just following through a sort of ritual of what they're expecting to happen is already going to happen. And it's interesting you say that, because a lot of people don't think that way, that they think it's all about the induction, but you're saying it's not.
Well, think about this idea. In the United States, you're exotic. You have great accent. You are bright. You're articulate from your military time and whatnot.
Richard Exotic.
And so when you meet these people, you're trusted a certain way. And what a lot of people that do hypnosis don't ask themselves is, do I look trustworthy?
Yeah.
And trustworthy might not even be interesting. Do I look interesting?
Yeah.
And then what's the leverage? Does this person want freedom, security? Do they want to look smart? Do they need self-expression? And what are they doing where the leverage happens to be? And what is your charm and connection and appreciation? Because your appreciation of that person is why they appreciate you.
So what if somebody's shy? A lot of people are saying, Jackie says, I'm pretty shy, so hypnosis would be fun for her. Somebody else said, Sarah said, I can be shy with talking to people. So as a hypnotist, Scott, how would that help them overcome that? A lot of people are scared to approach people, right?
Can I speak to that specific point?
Yeah, please do.
Really, Will Horton, someone we know, he did the letters, really all people prefer others resembling themselves, rapport. Really all people prefer others resembling themselves. And I would say that when you're shy, the secret to safety is appreciating them.
Yeah.
The secret to safety is being a grateful audience, which then makes them become a grateful audience of you and creates the space for you to be safe enough to shine. So the better audience you are, the better performer you become. The better audience you are, the better performer you become. And actors are often terrible at this. You will never copy what you resent, according to Dick Sutphin. So grateful watching of talent makes shy people escape shyness, because you can emulate the excellence of that other person and learn through it. But I would begin to suggest to you that it takes all the pressure off of you when you're in your senses, not in your introversion. So you're not in your head, you're taking them in, you're in your senses, and you're appreciating them. That will make you safer and less shy, because you'll be able to see the environment and you'll be able to read when you're safe or when it should be pressured.
So you're saying emulate those that are already doing what it is you want to do? Is that what you're saying?
I am.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I'm going further and saying be looking out here. Don't be wondering in your head how you're supposed to do.
Yeah, okay. So I've got a question from Chris. He says, hi, both of you. A very pragmatic question. Any tips and tricks for Corona conform rapid inductions? How to surprise without touching and keeping distance? That's a very good question. And I'm glad you have the answers, Scott, to this.
First, make Corona go away. No, actually, the first answer is...
Is it really in the first place?
Yeah,
does it exist?
Who knows? Yeah, but I would say that
it's a good question.
when I'm working on Zoom or on FaceTime, I have to use inductions that are now what you have to do on stage. first you've got the distance, and you can make the distance funny. In the shows that I have done with social distancing, I've made the distance the farce.
Yeah.
And I haven't done that many, but if you make somebody like do intimate things that are still 6 feet apart with masks on, that can be
it's
funny.
hilarious. Yeah, absolutely.
But I would go further in saying that if you're using like an Erickson approach where you're going, I don't know whether your right hand or left will rise first, and you can first take your index and finger and thumb and touch it together, and that's the hand that you go ahead and raise. I don't know which one you decide to raise now. And as they begin to raise that hand, right, you see you have them touch or them move.
Yeah.
Or you can even go further. If I could get close to you now.
So would you do this on the street too?
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
And I have.
So I think Chris asked that. So on the street, you're going to say to them, which one of your hands will be rising right now, and which one is that what you're saying?
Right. It's weird, isn't it? How when you listen to me right now, you might notice that one of your hands or feet begins to tingle. I don't know if it's your right hand or left, or your right foot or left. And as you feel that tingling, it's okay to begin to raise that hand. That's right. You can play the game as you interrupt. And when you're talking about surprise, you can use visual surprise.
Yeah.
You can use auditory surprise. Ha! You can use touch surprise, which you're used to using.
Yeah.
Or proximity surprise, where you're used to
closeness
using.
or distance. Yeah.
But remember that auditory surprise works. Speed works as surprise. So you can have surprise, and so does going past a social norm or breaking a rule has surprise.
What's an example of that?
Going past threshold like profanity, which can be very inappropriate.
Yeah.
But some type of breaking of a social moray sometimes gives you this gray confusion, which then you can turn into trance.
Yeah.
Be careful with that, obviously, but breaking a social moray can accomplish the same thing as going in and doing what we used to do in the 80s. Everyone was still using the old school method of putting your hand on the chest, slightly close to the neck, and usually instant inductions were always name amnesia. It's weird how as you feel that touch, the harder you try to tell me your name, the harder it becomes. That's right. Give it some effort. It's like it's disappeared. The harder you... and so the name amnesia, then you would go from that into sleep. And then you go from that into eye catalepsy, your arm raised. But the startling of the instant induction, just about everybody in the old days started with name amnesia. Now we're a little more creative than perhaps we used to be.
So hence it's gone through several different name changes, like shock inductions, what are those, speed induction, rapid induction. It's all that element of surprise, right?
It goes from pattern interrupt to confusion to trance.
Right.
So, but street hypnosis is not new. I mean, Ormond was doing the window sleep and hypnotizing people in the streets to promote the shows back in vaudeville. I mean, pretty much, So, in truth, there's nothing new under the sun. It's just old wine in a new bottle.
Yeah. Very good stuff, mate. So let's read a couple of these comments. Adam says it's very interesting. I was waiting for this. Pandy says, hi, Richard. TNT, hi. Adam, hi. Rick, looking forward to this. Ronald, howdy. David, aloha. Rick, first. Well done, my friend. John, good day. Dinesh, hi, Richard. Hello, Sylvian. Hello, Chris. Sarah. And then we have, let's see, a couple of comments coming up here. Pandy, hi, guys. Thanks for the information. Wash the hands. Yes, wash the hands. Jackie, pretty shy. Gilles from Ontario. Hey, Richard. Hey, Scott. Good to see you, my brother. Adam says, I've been studying hypnosis for a while, but haven't got one person yet to try it on. What would be your advice, Scott, when you're learning hypnosis and you need somebody to sort of, I guess, practice on, or as Adam says, try it on? How would you find your subjects or volunteers?
First, for your confidence, make sure you understand everything about revivification, like everything about canceling suggestions, everything about interruption, everything about ending the session. Remember that it is important to know that when hypnosis works, when people get really hyper suggestible, they do get literal. They get very, very literal. And so to make yourself have confidence means that you know how to end it while doing no harm. And so the more you understand that, there's a famous story from years ago where I left Minot, North Dakota, and I'd been doing the handclasp test as the beginning of the show. And a woman that wasn't even in the show picked up a glass during the handclasp and didn't tell anyone that she couldn't put it down.
Oh.
So I'm driving out of town, and the sponsor calls me and puts me on the phone with this person, and I, did this canceling of suggestion. This is a very important point. Why do you have to repeat things so often? Why do you have to have all the attention in the room? Because she didn't hear me when I canceled the handclasp test. She heard the beginning of the test, and the noise and the conversation at her table made her just not ever hear the end of the canceling of suggestions. So this is something a lot of people don't think about. That's why you need a good sound system. That's why you always stay 15 minutes after your show and wander around the audience and double check and do the other sales of the other things you do, because you need to make sure that everything is done.
Everything cancelled there.
Yeah.
There's no lingering suggestions at the end.
And because that almost never happens, it does. See, things that only happen once in a while, we start to think don't happen. You haven't done enough shows then.
But then all of a sudden you get one.
Yeah, right.
And it happens, and you're like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
I remember one time I thought I'd become the world's greatest stop-smoking hypnotist because I had about 100 people that were successful cases in a row.
Yeah.
But it was an accident or a quirk. It was just simple fate. Then I had like 20 or 30 in a row that didn't work right. But I really thought, wow, I've got this down, because it was just the statistical, that it was a bunch in a row, right?
Yeah.
Well, your ego, when you're starting to have it work, your ego gets huge, and you just got to remember, we're all ordinary. And if you become a good hypnotist, you're still ordinary.
Yep.
You got to watch. It takes years and years to understand how many goofy things happen. Canceling suggestion matters. So your confidence in trying it on your friends, you make sure that they do Al Krasner's opening. Close your eyes. This is very similar to what hypnosis feels like. You should not expect to black out. Go ahead and open your eyes. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. A hypnotist is just a teacher.
Nice.
So as you're doing this stuff with, that's pieces of Al Krasner and a bunch of other various people. But Al's close your eyes, this is very similar to what hypnosis feels like. You should not expect to go unconscious. Is still an embedded command because they hear go unconscious. Right? So you're in this situation, though, where your confidence and their confidence letting you practice is their understanding that it's self-hypnosis, so that nothing's being done to them. So there's no battle of wills. If you're setting it up as a battle of wills, it's bad on many levels. And as a hypnotist who helps people in life coaching and all of those types of things, or medical referral, I don't want anybody thinking hypnosis is a battle of wills from that standpoint. From a stage standpoint, I know it looks magical, but it's not a good framework.
So how about this? Would you be open, Mr. Scott McFall, to demonstrating, I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, but before we leave, like at the end of this broadcast, in just showing the viewers either a hands clasp, or would you be able to do that, do you think?
Well, let's do eye catalepsy
Could
to
you
show
do
the
that?
point of a loaded... yes, we can do that, but let's use eye catalepsy.
Okay.
And the reason is because blending the worlds of magic and hypnosis helps a lot. The other Krasner concept that's important is he doesn't think of all of these things we tell the subjects to do as depth tests. Remember, you've read all these books that say depth test. Al started calling them convincers because they increase the suggestibility.
I call them convincers.
Yes, that's good.
Convincers.
Yes, and these convincers help to augment or enhance how likely it is that their mind is going to accept the next statement as fact.
Yeah.
Okay? So in eye catalepsy, which is one of the best waking convincers, what we'll do is we'll just do the language I happen to use now with Richard, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And Richard has his own way of doing this, which is perfectly great.
All right,
I'll happily demonstrate mine.
So you guys watching this, would that be okay if we showed you? Are you calling this waking state hypnosis, or?
Well, we'll call this, even if you're in a light
Convincer.
trance, this is going to take them from light trance to where you're going to start fractionalizing and deepening.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
You do it every day.
Do you want to do it now?
Yeah.
All right. Am I looking at you?
Nope, you're looking at the camera.
I'm looking at the camera, but am I just listening to you now?
Yeah, you can listen to me. And Richard, is it all right with you to do a little test to find out how well you pay attention?
Yeah. But just before we do this, can the viewers do this as well? by looking at their screen?
Well, right, yeah. Why don't you?
So all the viewers, if you want to do this and experience this, you're going to do what I'm going to do if you want to give this a shot, or you can just watch me. Is that cool, Scott?
Yeah, either way.
So the viewers, you can experience this as well.
This is one of the things that we do in a free screening when people are coming into the
Very
clinic,
cool.
but it's also one of the early things that happen in a stage show.
Okay.
So Richard, go ahead. Is it okay with you to do a little test to
Yes.
find out how well you pay attention?
Yes.
So you can kind of forget everything for just a minute
Okay.
and go through this. What I'd like you to do is go ahead and close your eyes for your own relaxation. Go ahead and close your eyes for me. With your eyes comfortably closed, roll your eyeballs gently upward. And as you relax your eyelids, rolling your eyeballs gently upward, as though you're just kind of looking at something on the ceiling. I mean, you know what that feels like. So go ahead and do that. And with your eyes comfortably closed, relax your eyelids as much as you can. And just like the moments before you fall asleep, soon you're going to notice that the eyelids become heavy and stuck closed. Soon, the harder you tug at the eyelids, the heavier they feel. You'll notice the eyebrows move up and down easily and the eyelids heavy and stuck closed. The harder you tug at the eyelids, the heavier they feel. With the eyes comfortably closed, rolling those eyeballs gently upward, soon the harder you tug, the heavier they feel. As I count from 1 to 3, the eyelids becoming heavy and stuck closed. As I count 1, 2, that's right, 3. The harder you tug at the eyelids now, Richard, the heavier they feel. Notice your eyebrows move up and down easily. And notice the eyelids heavy and stuck closed. You can tug twice as hard, they feel twice as stuck. Richard, actually satisfy yourself of that sensation. Notice how easy your eyebrows and the muscles in your forehead move and how heavy the eyelids feel. Go ahead right now and tug twice as hard, they feel twice as stuck. Satisfy yourself of that sensation completely. Tug even harder. The harder you tug, the more stuck they become. Completely satisfy yourself of that sensation. Tug twice as hard, they feel twice as stuck. When you've completely noticed that, shake your head yes so I know that you're feeling that. Satisfy yourself of that sensation. That's right. And as you hear a clap, the eyes just open easily. That's right. That's good. That's right. So all eyes open easily now. All suggestions canceled. Now the thing about that...
Give Scott a round of applause, guys.
Well, yeah.
Awesome.
Well, there's some things about that that's very simple, and lots of people do eye catalepsy.
Mm-hmm.
However, here's some things that are true about that aren't in most people doing it. I make them move their eyebrows to notice the contrast so they can't say they didn't try later. I make them shake their head yes to show me that they did it. I don't let them just sit there and think, am I doing this right? What's happening to me now? Is it working? Is it not working?
I think the shake of the head is compliancy as well.
Yeah, that's right. It is. So there's Erickson in there because you heard me saying, that's right, exactly. You got it, right? But the most important thing is, as you know from studying hypnosis, when the eyeballs roll up, most people have a harder time opening
Very
the
hard,
eyelid.
yeah.
So it has a gaff that then makes the next physical thing they experience enhanced. So it starts with convincers that then become more and more enhanced and multiply the suggestibility as we go along, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I want you to catch the fact that 90% of people, the biggest complaint when people have gone to a clinical hypnotist is, I don't know if I was hypnotized.
Yeah.
So the most important thing that you have to remember is they need to leave knowing they were hypnotized. And the way that you do
We're on the same hymn sheet right here, because I always make sure that they know that they experience something.
Yeah,
so they're not walking away without any experiences.
Yes, and entertainers and actors are better at this than psychologists. Yeah. So if I take someone who's a psychologist, it takes a little extra effort to get them to speak to cause provocation of response. Because usually they're figuring out what is happening with that other person rather than provoking a response on purpose intensely. So there's a huge difference between just audiencing and listening and analyzing and provoking a response.
Provocation of response. That is awesome. That's some good words right there.
Yeah,
you want to provocate a response.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I'm not a big believer in rapport as the only way to handle people. Yeah. Because I want to read what's really going on with them, and I need to get them to stop placating me and just doing what they think I want. Mm-hmm. So in the beginning of knowing someone from a coaching point of view, I have to see what's really going on in order to decide where they are and where they want to go. Mm-hmm. What's this route? Well, if they're just doing whatever they think I want to hear right here, I don't get to know where they are. So provoking a real response here, it's a little risky because then you need to get rapport back to get them where they need to go. this provocation of response piece also helps you to know, in a clinical sense, who to refer out. On stage, it helps you know who to keep and who to let go. Knowing that it's really working. It's okay if it doesn't work. It's okay if they don't go into hypnosis. It's okay. It's totally all right. And that's why you have permission to check and make sure that they feel it. And even Richard, who's been doing this forever, he's going through the motions and thinking it through. And it took 3 or 4 times before his eyebrows went up and down, because he's academically analyzing it, because he already knows this kind of thing, and he's thinking about it in words, and it takes a couple of extra times before he kinesthetically feels it with his eyebrows. So remember, it's the feelings and the pictures and the sounds, not the words themselves, that do the work.
So, that would work very well. There's a couple of questions here. And so Sylvian, street hypnosis, what do you say in your pre-talk? How long is your pre-talk? Do you do imagination sort of games before an induction? I think this is a good way in. Doing the eye catalepsy, the eye lock is a good way in to sort of street rapport.
Well, there are all kinds of wise concepts in that question, like imagination games to make them more visual than talking in their head. All those things are great. The classic NLP stuff is really good. But truly in that moment, it's a charm game or a pattern interruption game. If you happen to have a lot of attraction equity, that will work. If you're slightly exotic in the situation, that will tend to work.
So by accent, by dress. It's like peacocking, it's like having that hat or having that mustache or having
Sometimes it's subtlety. Like for the last year or two, I was playing a game where I was doing magic and mentalism, where I was wearing a big handlebar mustache. If I still was owning my clinics, I wouldn't have worn that handlebar mustache. There's no way. But I mean, doing the character I was playing on stage, it was great. So your look, as Richard is saying, is your first game. How do you look?
Does that make sense, Sylvian? It's like your first, you call it like an induction visualization game or imagination. It kind of really is. You're kind of already offering up what it is they're about to receive just by imagery, just by sensory images without any auditory interruption at that point.
When you make eye contact, hold it slightly too long until they look away.
Slightly deliberate.
And look here, not at their eyes. When you look at their eyes, that's real intimacy, and you're at risk too. You look here.
You're at risk.
It looks like you're looking past their eyes when you look right here. Right here. You're looking right here. And that's helps.
Why I tap there. I
tap
tap just above the eyes to force them to look up.
That's a good thing. And McGill used to like to tap there and then run a flick off of the nose.
Nice.
But in the case of when you're looking at someone, when you make eye contact back and forth, you're going to end up in reverse transference too. So they're in transference and you're in transference. You lose all your leverage, and you start to be squirrely about what you're feeling about them or what they're feeling about you. The reason you look here is to avoid the actual intimacy that would leverage you out of your center.
So it's interesting. A lot of people that are watching this are learning, street hypnosis in particular. And I always say it's like having a deliberate approach. I'm not having a wishy-washy approach, or I'm not having like this timid approach. I'm having this a fait accompli. Like when I approach somebody, it's going to happen without any hesitation. I think that comes with confidence and a little bit of time, but
doesn't it also come with knowing who not to do it with?
And who not to do it, And I always find, and I don't know that there's people here that I'm sure are doing street hypnosis, that I will never do it on those that are challenging me to do it. I'll do it on those that almost are surprised that I've chosen them as do you want to give this a shot? Do you want to see what happens when you're hypnotized and how wonderful it will feel? Rather than, just hypnotize me, do it right now. Those guys, I'll make them sit and wait. Calm down, sit and wait, stop talking.
Right.
Let me demonstrate it on your friend first because you're next. So I kind of control that over-eager person.
Over-eager is an unfortunate state of mind because it feels good when it's actually bad. Think about it like an athlete that's over the zone and they're overstimulated for the game and they start making the game go bad. In your life, you should not be over-eager. And when someone is over-eager, you should get them in the zone first and then do things with them. So he's saying something very wise. Richard is saying a wise concept. Over-eager is not necessarily a resourceful mood in any part of life, not just when you're taking in a hypnosis subject.
So let's get some questions underway here. First of all, we've got Rev It Up Hypnosis Center. Hi, Scott. Hi, Richard. Is that your tribe?
Rev It Up would be Vicky Thomas in
Oh,
California.
hey, Vicky. We have Urban Entity, wear elastic gloves if you need to touch. I think that's fair enough. Thank you, sir.
That is a good idea.
Yeah, very good. David said that's a great approach. David Banfield. Sylvian, how long do you take from the approach to start of the induction in street? I think it's case by case. It just depends on the actual individual and the circumstances and the location and the environment. I'm in no rush to get there fast. I just want to make it a solid experience. So for that reason, some people rush this, and I think it's better just to look at the environment you're in and take your time and watch. Yeah.
Watch them.
Chris says, he's laughing, this is awesome, thanks. I will try this. I will try the inappropriate approach tomorrow.
Make sure you're in the right audience for that.
Make sure you're in the right audience.
Don't offend
yeah.
just for offense's sake, but like and only go as far as it takes to make the pattern interruption happen.
And give people a good experience, ultimately, right? I mean,
respectful experience. Respect their, the classic NLP thing. Respect their model of the world, and don't do it out of just don't do it out of a defiant attitude. Do it because of showing a little more behavior flexibility than they have. But don't do it out. The wrong attitude will just make everyone not want to listen to you. So just you're demonstrating more flexibility than the other people at that moment.
Listen to these words. They're just golden. They just like drip out of your mouth like butter. Behavioral. What did you just say? Behavioral flexibility. Isn't that awesome? Display behavioral flexibility. Love it.
So if you're slightly more flexible than they are, then they're going to tend to defer control to you.
Nice. And after all, we need control.
A little bit.
I mean, we need that control element.
We need some leverage.
Otherwise, it's chaos.
Yeah.
Adam says, what is a great way to approach someone for hypnosis without looking weird? And honestly, I have to say, from looking at a lot of stage and street hypnotists, it's very easy to look weird and creepy and be that guy that says, ask me to hypnotize you for free, or whatever they say on their shirts and things like that. Sometimes that can be very tacky and cheesy.
They might as well have "love me, please love me." I don't have enough admiration. Please love me on their shirts.
So how would you answer Adam's question? What is a great way to approach someone for hypnosis without looking weird to people?
There's a poem in How to Write a Good Advertisement by Victor Schwab that says, "Tell me quick and tell me true, or else my love to hell with you."
Love it.
Less how this damn thing came to be and more what the damn thing does for me. And this poem is very long. It has a bunch of points in it. But remember, everyone's favorite subject is themselves. So when you're talking to them, have you ever had anyone show you how your own imagination impacts your body?
Ooh, I like that.
Have you ever really wanted to find out how you could be motivated in a quick way? Like, make it about them. Do you like having adventure? I mean, some people like being bored because it takes all the risk off of them, but do you like adventure? Let's do a little test to find out how well you pay attention.
I like that too.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, all of those go a long way.
Listen to that approach a second. Next time you're doing a street hypnosis or even a one-on-one, can you just repeat that? That was really good.
Which, the last one?
Yeah.
Let's do a little test to find out how well you pay attention. This won't hypnotize you completely right now.
Let's do a little test to find out that
how well you pay attention.
How well you pay attention.
And this probably won't hypnotize you completely right now.
That's awesome. That's an awesome approach.
And the thing is that you're embedding the commands afterward. You're using Ericksonian and NLP, and what you're doing is you're putting the self-consciousness with them, not you. It takes all the pressure off of you. The most important thing you can do as a hypnotist is realize you have nothing to do with it. Mm. So you don't have to feel all of that performance pressure. It's just gone. Because who's it about?
Them.
Them.
Because a lot of people feel they're on they're being tested. A lot of street hypnotists on stage
be a rock star with your air guitar, if you want that.
With their performance anxiety, as you will, because they think it's about them. And just listen to those words. It's not about you. It's about them and their experience and what they take away from it.
I was an actor, and when you're an actor and you worry about your own performance as an actor, and I'm a mediocre actor. Mm. As an actor, I'm one hell of a hypnotist. So the thing is that when I was an actor, you find out if you're playing a character, you can't be self-conscious and in character at the same time. You can't be a centered sage or a person who's taking the tour guide taking someone to where they've never been before if you act like you've never been there before. And it's about taking them where they haven't been. That's the fun of it. It is not about control. You are a tour guide. If you need control or you're desperate for admiration, read more self-help books or something. Get to the point where you have a center and you don't have a hole in your heart. This business attracts a lot of people who have a need. And you should, the powerful hypnotist is not needy. The powerful hypnotist, whether it's demonstrational, on stage, or in a clinic somewhere, the great hypnotists are incredibly centered people.
Yeah.
It's true.
So here's a comment from Ben Grace. Good to see you. With Corona, I have experimented with YouTube hypnosis videos and self-hypnosis. I can never get suggestions to stick or work. Are there any tips? It's a good question.
Well, Jeff McBride at the Magic and Mystery School, they did a lot digitally in the first place. I do a lot of Zoom meetings with the people that own the training centers and the hypnosis system that I developed, and with clients, and with their students, and so on. And so I have had some show experience digitally, and I've done lots and lots of hypnosis sessions digitally. And what you have is a situation where you haven't got control of their environment. And you need to, if it's my opinion, that you need to get a better frame on how to shut out the other distractions in their environment. And it takes longer to do the suggestion setup because you need to make sure they complied with the first part and that you've got control of their visual and internal dialogue before you move to the second part of the suggestion. So when you do a suggestion, you tell them that it's going to happen. Then you tell them, and you do that 3 times at least. Then you tell them it's happening at least 3 times, and then they test it. And then you tell them that it happened. And then you deepen, and you move to the next thing. So it's future tense, future tense, future tense, current tense, present tense, and then past tense, past tense,
It's
past
funny,
tense.
yeah.
And so it's very important that you get the fact that it takes longer for them to build the connection with you, and it takes slightly more repeating, and it takes you matching and pacing out loud the distractions in their environment. As you're just sitting there in front of the computer or your device, all the other sounds in the room and the things happening in your house or your office, they can just be happening and help you to relax now. But if you don't match and pace the environment when you're doing YouTube, if you don't match and pace the environment they're in, if you don't guess at it and get it on the table, then the hidden agenda of what they think is distracting them wins. Look at Harry Aaron's suggestions. Your mind may drift or your mind may wander, and it always comes back to my voice. He's assuming they're going to drift and think they're distracted. He's matching and pacing what's happening with them and bringing them back to his voice, right? Well, in YouTube, that becomes 10 times more important, that you fantasize what are the top 5 or 6 things that are happening in their environment that are screwing this up. In Zoom...
Because they could be on their phone.
Right.
They could be on their cell phone.
Right. So the rules are the same. It's just that the things that you need to get on the table as their accidental hidden agendas are a little different. And you wiggle those and it falls into place and it's really fun, you know.
Great. That's great advice and a great question. Adam says, I'm taking notes. This is good stuff. Chris says, any tips on judging people on their suggestibility really fast? What signs are you watching for? That's kind of a cool question.
I'm looking for whether they're trying to prove they're free, secure, competence, need to belong to a group, or are self-expressive. And I'm figuring out which way they're suggestible based upon how leverage works upon them. Freedom, security, competency, belonging, and self-expression. The way that I see those is described in detail in the Master Hypnotist Society textbook. It's also described in Power Secrets of Sales Magic, Create Credibility for Cash. But what I'm looking for, if they want freedom, I know pressure is going to be required to get their attention. If they want security, I know I'm going to take pressure off of them to make them more suggestible. If they're self-expressive, I'm going to notice something about them unique to help them know I've taken in their uniqueness before I give them suggestion. If they're competency, I'm going to notice they're smart so that I know I'm smart enough to notice they're smart. If they need to belong, I'm going to organize myself because I'm kind of chaos oriented, and they'll think chaos is incompetence. So I'm going to straighten myself up. I'm going to look a little bit more military or corporate.
And this is a visual cue you get.
Yeah.
Right.
I can see in them how they're moving in space and what their body communication is. As I'm watching that, I'm also wondering, so that's what they're trying to prove about themselves, walking through space as a subconscious habit. As I'm watching that, then I'm asking myself, okay, and what do they want right now? And is the timing of this good for this person? Or what would have to be true to make the timing good for this person? And I'm either going to wait and pick the timing, like him having like Richard saying, I'm going to have the overeager person wait a while. You know.
Yeah, because they're too eager.
Right.
They're too distracted in their own distraction.
If somebody's 1,000 times too happy coming into a screening, I'm going to guess possible borderline personality, where they're 150% too positive and then they flip and they're 150% negative. So I'm going to send that person home to think about it for all kinds of reasons, more than I'm going to try to sell them anything. Like I'm going to cool them off. And a lot of people in the self-help industry think you want to jack them up. That's not the cheerleading for a sporting event. Just makes people disappointed later if something goes wrong. So making somebody just positive or just zealous or just passionate, that's not a good self-help strategy. Because then what happens if something goes wrong? What goes up must come down. So having them in the right zone of enthusiasm while still knowing what might go wrong, powerful.
Otherwise you get disappointment, like you said. It's built in.
Yes, exactly. So in the stage hypnosis and instant induction sense, I want to only promise what they're going to deliver. If I give them an expectation, I have to know it's going to fire off. And that doesn't mean that it's always going to work. It means I'm going to measure the risk of laying out that suggestion in a caring way. And I'm going to use some kind of leverage that they want that experience before I step into it. There's going to be some way I felt the mojo, like dancing, and knowing that they can follow dancing. I'm going to be able to feel it.
It is leverage, and it's that you get that radar you through experience too, but you get the radar of just knowing, just by posture and just by almost in intuition. And I'm normally right with my intuition now.
Right.
Because
but you were in law enforcement, weren't you?
Law enforcement, yeah. So I studied human behavior,
right,
and human, body language and everything else, and verbal cues and all that stuff.
Right, and that gives you a sense. It also, there's body language, and is that person going to attack or not attack?
Yeah, sure.
There's body languages. Are they romantically interested in me or not interested in me? But then there's also the body language of, does this person need an interesting experience right now, or do they have leverage in their life that makes that not a good idea? And so, but you have that from the other experiences in your life in the first place.
Yeah, so and that's a good point. It's I think what makes a decent hypnotist is life experience of being around people is helpful, and being around groups is helpful, just to see that we are pack animals and our mentality is a certain way, and it's not that difficult to see the parameters of different personalities, because actually there's not that many.
There aren't.
I've noticed there's not that many. There's
certain, like 5 of us walking around.
In the entire universe.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm going to read a couple of comments. Corey says, wow, this brings... Corey Blanchett? Do you know Corey?
I know.
Wow, this brings back my training of Krasner method training.
Oh, uh-huh.
Where would you get a Krasner training?
Wizard, let's see, The Wizard Within by Al Krasner.
The Wizard Within by Al Krasner?
Yeah, and I think it was edited by Carolyn Miller. That book...
is that on Amazon?
It's around. The thing is that the most important thing in the book is the way he did pre-talks.
Yeah.
Al was very charming, kind of like the nicest Amway salesman you ever met, right? Or like the nicest car salesman. And so Al's charm and his handling people in space was so good. He came as a student to my stage training in Vegas many, many years ago. And he and my dad had so much fun because the woman that Al was with commented that my dad was attractive. And so Al came up to my dad and said, pistols or swords? Which is it going to be, pistols or swords? And they actually put themselves back to back and paced off their duel. And Al was charming, charming, charming. And so when you met all these people, Gil Boyne had a certain, like, paternal charm to him, but absoluteness, like absoluteness. Whereas like there are several people who would pick a fight and prove themselves true. That's again the credibility model.
Yeah.
And but what I want you to see about like Al was so amiable and so unthreatening and just flattering something about you that would pull you in. And so it's not the words as much as it's his demeanor. And that's true of every master. You should be studying how they're moving in space. What is their general attitude? What are their values? How are they behaving? Please stop thinking it's the words. It's not. That's great. The word salad is great. Learning stuff from NLP is terrific. But the way that those people were filtering other people, they could have said it any way they wanted, and they'd have still got the point across.
Very cool. So Dinesh says, wow, my eyelids got stuck and it opened without my permission when Scott clapped. Yes.
Ta-da!
We've got Jess Chan says, hi, wow. Sammy says, seeing the master hypnotist get hypnotized. That's cool, because I don't think I've ever done anything like that on my YouTube. That's the first.
All hypnotists. A great general was a great private.
Yeah.
A great teacher is a great student, and a great hypnotist loves getting hypnotized.
Yeah, and that is true.
Yeah.
I just haven't done it on YouTube before.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Rick says, does Scott have any books for sale? And if so, where to get them on the subject of hypnosis? Great question. Scott, where
is he?
Rick, where are you? Can you just type in the comments where you're located? It does not say. Rick W. Landsman. Does Scott have any books for sale? Do you have any on your website or Amazon?
Most of my books are available through the trainers in my system, which is why I asked where you were, because there could be one close to you.
What about through like Rev It Up, Hypnosis Center?
Yeah, Vicky has the Master Hypnotist Society training manual and so on.
Okay.
We are big believers in live training and accountability. Although we do teach through books and booklets, and I do my own stuff with. We have a student, the Master Hypnotist Society student group, but they usually are people that are training with one of my trainers or have trained with me.
Yeah.
I don't spend a lot of time like I'm doing here with Richard unless they've already been trained live and I already have them accountable. Essentially, they've been messed with a little by me before they're in that group usually.
So, Rev It Up says, Scott taught me that 13 years ago, and I think I've used it with every client and every show since. And that's the eye lock. That's eye catalepsy.
Yeah, the way that one works.
Nice, well done. David Banfield, Richard, where can I get a spinning spiral like yours? I got mine from a Las Vegas magic shop, and there is a supplier called is it Top Hat, or the guys that supply those hypno spirals? Magic shop in Vegas, but you can get them online, and I want to say it's Top Hat. It's a magic supplier that has those hypno spirals. I can put it in the comments afterwards and find out. But I want to say it's
Penguin Magic probably.
Penguin probably has them. Yeah, Penguin Magic probably has the spirals. Most magic shops, the one I got was Vegas, but yeah, you can get them online, and I'll post a link for you. Just as interesting, Rev It Up, smiley face. Urban Entity TV. Do you feel one-on-one is better than playing the odds and just choosing who works when approaching a group?
I think it's really good to use the Kreskin approach when approaching a group, which is you do some test, and as people respond to it, like it might be finger vice on the street would be a good one where you don't have to touch them.
Yeah, just using the fingers.
And how much time do we have, Richard?
We're actually over time, but there's still a lot of interest. I think we're good for about 5-6 minutes.
I'll demo one more thing for you.
Perfect.
And then we'll call it a day. But if you were doing street and you said, is it better playing the odds or one-on-one? Well, if you're doing something and someone is like fixated, interested, and they're getting hypnotic masking and their mouth is opening slightly and they look kind of like, right? Then you've got a fixated deal going and maybe you can enhance that. But if not, one of my favorite tests that I didn't like until a guy that used to perform on the New York subways did it for me. This guy, he used to work the subways for tips, doing magic and hypnosis on the subways one-on-one.
Nice.
This is way back in the day, right? And he did the finger vice in such a way that I was blown away how great it works. And, excuse me, it's like every mentalist does this thing.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
At this point. But the finger vice, when you're doing it, what I'd like you to do...
All right, hang on a second. Are we doing this now?
Yeah.
All right, so if you're watching wherever you are around the world, because there's people from India and Canada and England and America and everywhere, stop what you're doing, as long as you're not driving, pull over, and check this out right now. And do this, experience this. Go ahead, Master Guru Scott McFall.
So what you have them do in the group, if they're already giving you attention and if it's appropriate in the situation, if they're liking giving you the attention as the group, and you've got enough rapport or charm.
So the group is focused on you, right?
So then you say, this is kind of a fun thing to play with. I'd like you to extend your hand as open as you possibly can. How far can you open your hand? See, does it curve backward? And as you do that, what I'd like you to do is take your thumb and only your index finger, leave the other finger straight, and squeeze that thumb and index finger together, and imagine a vice squeezing down on that thumb and index finger. Actually picture it and squeeze it tighter and tighter with your other finger straight up, as tight as you can. Imagine that vice squeezing down tighter and tighter until you can feel the muscles in that index finger actually becoming tired. Soon you can imagine a vice squeezing down on that index finger. As you stare at that index finger and thumb, soon the harder you try to lift that index finger, the more stuck it feels. As I count from 1 to 3, the index finger locking down on the thumb. 1, feeling your finger becoming stuck tight. 2, feeling your wrist and your finger rigid, stiff as a board. 3, the harder you try to lift that index finger, the more stuck it gets. Satisfy yourself with the sensation. Try twice as hard, it just gets twice as stiff. It just gets twice as stiff. Give it some real effort. Satisfy yourself with the sensation completely. That's right, feel that stiffness. Now relax finally. Feel your hand just let loose. Shake it and make that feeling go away. Move your index finger. That's right. Now as you felt that, you might know that your body is responding to suggestion. And as you follow each suggestion I give you, and you'd move into whatever way you want to do street hypnosis from that, or from the eye catalepsy. But if you do this exactly right, it's a kind of the same gaff as the way the eye catalepsy works. You want to watch that their finger becomes concave, and that this finger stays as straight as possible, which makes the muscles that go to the index finger really hard to use until this comes down or until the wrist moves. So as you're here, it starts the same as the eye roll and then becomes true as the suggestions enhance it until they move the wrist or drop the middle finger. So it's a good segue into another suggestion, another deeper, more intense suggestion.
And that's like a convincer. So Gilles over in Canada says, how many convincers do you typically use? That would be one.
It would be one.
That would be a convincer. Maybe hands clasp, finger magnets, maybe arms raise, arms fall. Maybe then going into eye catalepsy.
Right. You can tell to some degree the intensity of response. And then you want to fractionalize, even in street hypnosis. You know, it's like you're going down 3 steps to where you're totally relaxed and follow each suggestion given. As I count from 3 to 1, it's like you step down into where you're just safe following each direction. And the idea is that you're fractionalizing the stages to, or you can have them step through room to room until they're completely agreeing. But this fractionalization is they come up a step in distraction, you bring them down 2 steps into responding more. They come up a step in distraction again, you bring them down 2 more steps into responding more. So you get in this rhythm of where you can just feel that rather than saying it's going to be this many times. Because maybe the answer is 20 with someone. Maybe the answer is 2.
So on a stage show, it's governed by time for me. Like on a cruise ship, I've only got 45 minutes. So in that 45 minutes, I don't do any convincers at all on the front end of the show because I have to really bounce through that show quickly to finish on time so I don't get fired. So if I have a little bit longer, I will do an audience convincer, finger magnets, arms raise, arms fall, depending on where I am. So fairgrounds and festivals, I'll do a convincer or 2. Cruise ships, I will definitely not, just because I don't have time and there's 2,500 people in the theater.
And keep in mind that he's charming. So he got their attention in the first place.
The attention's there. Plus there's a pre-roll video. There's a 2-minute pre-roll.
Which takes care of it.
Which takes care of the convincing.
So we maybe should end on that point. When I was playing in Minot years ago, Minot was a great place to play because I'd play 3 weeks at a time at a place called Reflections Lounge. And at Reflections, we put up posters and framed pictures of various pieces of the show. And
Nice.
there'd be 300 or 400 people that would show up, and they'd be standing there staring at all this stuff, right? So by the time they got in, eventually, the show had such an incredible reputation that I would walk through the audience and take my sunglasses off, and 12 people would fall on the floor.
It's you.
Yeah, and they would fall on the floor, and we didn't do an induction. We
That's
didn't do
great.
a pre-talk. We didn't do anything. And it got to be so weird that it almost wrecked some of the romance of the show, because so many people had been hypnotized before in that show that they'd just come in and they'd want to participate, and they'd go under in the crowd based on just looking at them.
Yeah.
And so keep in mind that it's like reading a book from halfway through. There are people there who've never seen it before, and they need to understand why it's working. Richard's pre-video shows why it's working and builds the expectation in the same way the photos did walking through there. Or we have hundreds of testimonials in the waiting rooms of the clinics to build the understanding of the stories, which, by the way, shows how the individual should succeed. Attitude, actions. Those attitudes and actions are in the testimonial videos and in the testimonials that are on the walls. So we're pre-framing, this is what it takes to succeed using this method. We're not just saying it's magic.
It's almost like the old sales technique, which is all my previous 1,000 clients and users of this product all experience the same benefits.
Right.
That you're actually going to ultimately experience as well.
But you have to nowadays give a reason for the group that doesn't work. For instance, when you're doing handclasp in the audience, and you say, everybody do this, everyone give this a try, find out how well you do. Now look around you, you can tell the people that think they're really something, they're not doing it, right? Like you can frame it socially in a fun way. So there's the group that doesn't succeed. Perhaps the person coming in for weight loss has a thyroid problem that's untreated. But always have a reason that is legitimate for the varying responses.
So let's say just quickly, a lot of you have seen the finger magnets drawing closer, tighter, closer together. Let's say, and on 5, eyes open, look at your fingers pressed, touching tight together. And somebody's like that.
Right.
What do you say? The fingers never touched. What would you say? Or the hands clasp.
Well, the first thing I would say...
They could release their hands.
Well, that almost never happens to me. But if it did happen, oh, cool, you haven't started. You've been talking to yourself in your head. Awesome. Okay, cool.
Oh, you haven't started yet.
Who are you talking to in there? There's only one of you in your head. Go ahead and listen to me now. What I'd like you to do is, that's perfect. You're finally out here with me.
That's brilliant.
And remember that people being auditory digital and introverted, oh, cool, you usually sort by what you don't agree with first and then what you agree with, and you're kind of talking to yourself in your head. That's awesome. What I'd like you to do is, as you go ahead and agree with me now and you're really following along, that's right, you begin to feel begin to match and paste the truth, which is they'd be auditory digital and sorting by distinction.
You normally sort about what you don't agree with first.
That person.
Yeah, that's cool.
So remember, they're going to sort by agreement first, disagreement first, or... Well, there's various patterns that you can read about, but the idea is match and paste. Agree with the outcome.
Agree with the outcome no matter what.
Give them the reason why.
Because it's happened.
Yeah.
So you can't actually ignore it.
It's like training horses.
And you can't deny it, because there it is. The fact of the matter is their fingers never touched.
Yeah.
Oh, so what conversation are you having with yourself? That's great. Let me read a couple of comments, because we are fast out of time here.
Great. It was fun.
Corey says, what do you do when you have clients say for stop smoking and you don't think they will stop smoking? Don't see the client. I don't see the client. They have to know in their head first that they're going to stop prior to coming to see me. If there's any inkling or suggestion that they don't think this is going to work, they're not my client.
Right.
Is that the same?
Yeah, but I'll give you something that is $1 million. I'm
going to put that on the screen.
If you're in a clinical situation and I give you this and you don't understand it, good, because you haven't paid me anything. The most important
Corey,
thing,
you're about to get $1 million of advice right here.
It's one sentence.
One sentence.
Are you sincere about quitting smoking? And then they sit there and they're thinking, because, are you a sincere person or are you a liar?
I'm a liar. I want to smoke.
So you say, so are you sincere about quitting smoking? And the other thing I would do if they were that line, for all kinds of reasons, if you actually read in the implications, it's a piece of magic that has done magic for so many thousands of people. Are you sincere about losing weight? Are you sincere about learning hypnosis, or are you just dabbling with the idea? So the thing is that the other thing I would say to you is agree with the positive intent of the behavior right away. a la Fritz Perls or six-step in NLP, but be like, thank your subconscious mind for entertaining you and distracting you when you're bored by smoking. I mean, everyone does everything for a positive reason in the first place. I mean, you didn't think, I think I'll do something stupid today. So, I mean, thank your subconscious mind for going ahead and doing that, because, I mean, you had a way to distract yourself and play and have fun. And, I mean, if you had another way to distract yourself that way, it would be okay to forget smoking now. Or would you like to suffer longer? I mean, maybe you like when the cigarette gets stuck to your lips. You ever have that happen? And your fingers slip down and you get the cherry between your fingers. I mean, maybe you like that sort of pain. I don't know. But if you begin to notice that if you agree with the positive intent of the behavior and then you associate clear pain with the problem amplified, that they will go out of the compulsion. Because to have the compulsion to smoke, they have pleasure and pain associated with smoking. So you want clarity of pain, but that's a whole other workshop.
Yeah, and we're out of time. So here's going to rattle off a couple of comments. Jess, thank you so much. Tune in. I think we'll do this. We'll do this again. We're doing it every Monday at 2. Hypnosis can see our past life. I'm going to say yes in some circumstances, right?
Well, yes. Although one time I had someone recount an episode of Night Gallery from the previous day, but yeah, depends.
Adam says, let me put this on screen. Adam says, how can you tell if someone is under hypnosis? Because some people will fake it to play with you. And how long does some go under hypnosis? I heard it takes about an hour or more. Is that true?
That is not true.
That is not true. And also, I don't believe anybody does fake and play along with it. Certainly not on my stage. They get kicked their asses right back into the audience.
Yeah, you tease them enough to begin with. You test them enough to begin with.
And you know what I like to do, Scott, is when somebody is blatantly, flamboyantly faking it or just playing along with it, I say to the audience, it's so much fun, isn't he? He's so much fun. So much better in the audience.
Good. That's great. That's very good, Richard.
So much better in the audience. Thank you, sir. So much fun.
In a classic stage hypnosis show, that's an awesome line. In a classic stage hypnosis show, you're saying, I want you to be respectful of each other and myself, but please be respectful of the people next to you.
Yeah.
And sincerely, like they have to be a jerk to the people they're with in order to go there if you frame it right. Yeah. So that helps a lot.
Sammy says, can you hypnotize the subject just by a mild shock or a little handshake talk without letting the subject knowing? Without letting them know. Sammy Khan. Can you hypnotize the subject just by a mild shock or a little handshake talk without letting the subject know?
You can change their state of mind by the little handshake. You can get a temporary control of their state through a surprise or being slightly off balance, where their pattern they were in is interrupted, and therefore you change their state. Is it theta brainwaves and totally suggestible right then? No, but you have, without them really analyzing it, controlled their state or their mood in that moment.
In a mild manner.
Yeah, in a mild manner.
Corey basically is saying, breathe in a good way, no, eyelids sometimes will twitch. I've been hypnotized so much now I can go in seconds. I'm a flopper. We love floppers. I'll take a flopper all day long.
Bought my first 3 houses that way.
Transform Destiny does it is a comment. Corey says, does Kraz the method? Rick's from Traverse City. Rick was asking about the books.
Traverse City, what state is that?
Isn't Traverse City Michigan? I think that's Michigan. Yeah, Michigan. He's just actually followed up with Michigan.
Yeah.
Do you have any centers there?
Well, there's a guy in Green Bay, Wisconsin that's close to you. You might talk to Jay Luck and see if he's got anything he can send you.
Jay Luck in Green Bay.
In Green Bay. And
Perfect.
He's
Perfect.
close to you.
DJC Beatty. Hopefully I said that right. Scott's the real deal. That's why he's here. Adam says, when I see the eye roll test, when the person's eyes go up, the amount of sclera, is that? Sclera. I see, does that indicate the person is hypnotizable?
Not really. That's kind of a con job. They have cards out that try to show that the amount of sclera you see.
Oh, is that right?
With hypnosis. I find that to be absolutely quackery, actually.
Okay. I wonder where that got picked up. Who's teaching that then?
Well, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
I don't want to mention names.
It's coming from somewhere.
Yeah, it is, but I find it quackery.
Okay. Mission Valley Hypnosis, Rick. Wisconsin Hypnosis, J Luck is closest to you. Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. That kind of answered that. Chris said, awesome session. Thanks, guys. Sarah says, wow, that's cool. Jess says, cool. Sarah, awesome. Sylvian, thank you very much. Jess, thank you very much. Very polite. Very polite viewers. Thank you so much.
Courtesy
it's
day.
Very polite to be polite. Thanks for the info. Thank you. So we're going to wrap it up.
Thanks, everybody.
Scott, any final brief snippets of wisdom that you would give for people that are interested in hypnosis? Because not everybody wants to perform this. Not everybody wants to do street hypnosis. People are, some people are just quite happy watching it and experience it. But anyone that is just interested in the world of hypnotism, is there any final things you can say?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you very much for having me and doing the interview today, Richard. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, absolutely.
And, I would say this: learn classical ways to do it first and become self-expressive second. Master the stuff that exists first and put your own individual creative spin. Delay that as long as you can, is my advice. Everyone wants to be unique, but remember, understand why things work thoroughly first, then be creative. That would be my advice to you all.
Love it. Yeah, model those that you admire, respect, love. Model them to a certain degree. Tony Robbins says, that you should model those that are already successful, or you should model your success on those that are already successful, or you should mirror people that are doing today what you want to do tomorrow. But then I absolutely agree. Then put your own spin on it. Put your own twist on there. All right, we are out of time. I can't wait for next Monday at 2. Scott, it's been an absolute pleasure. We are in the same room. He is just over there.
Thank you very much, man.
And it's been a pleasure. And what an awesome time that was. So thank you so much. Make sure you write in the comments, because right now you're on the live chat, which all your comments will disappear as soon as we hang up. But feel free just to write in the comments anything that you want after this broadcast. And is there any links we can put up so that people can find you, or if they want to further study with you? Or?
Well, yeah, we're Master Hypnotist Society is the group that I run, and there
Master
are Facebook,
Hypnotist Society,
and there are Facebook groups and whatnot. But there's also hypnosisconnection.com.
Okay.
But I'm usually dealing with the trainers now more than direct clients. But hypnosisconnection.com.
And you have a bunch of trainers all over the United States. What about overseas?
Mostly Canada and the U.S.
Canada and the
US. There are a
US.
few people that still dabble in other countries, but Canada and the U.S. are where the busy centers are.
Okay. It's been a pleasure, Scott. Oh, I almost forgot. On Wednesday, there is a new video being launched on the channel. It's very, very cool, and I'm very excited to share this with you. Wednesday at, oh gosh, I think it's 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm doing my first 360-degree virtual reality hypnosis video for sleep. So if you have an Oculus Quest or a 360-degree headset, it's going to be unbelievable to watch this hypnosis for sleep, hypnotherapy kind of track. If you don't, you can actually watch it on YouTube, and you'll be able to scroll around the screen 360 degrees, and you'll spot me holding the invisible camera with my flip-flops on and shorts, because I never erased myself out of the scene. It's very, very cool. But on Wednesday, that's going live. I don't normally do the sort of consulting hypnosis kind of style hypnotherapy videos, but this one is like 25 minutes for encouraging you to get a better night's sleep. I think it's super cool. I love how it's 360. You can just look up at the sky. And I actually filmed the sunset in St. Pete Beach in Florida. And literally you watch the sun going down and all the sky changing pink. It is awesome. So that's going live Wednesday, and I think it's 2 o'clock. So be there and make sure you comment on that video. And other than that, I'll see you next week at 2. Thank you so much for all your questions. It was a very dynamic, interactive talk. Scott, you were awesome, my brother. Thank you so much.
Glad hanging with you.
And we'll see you later.